Are you from Bel Air?
I'm from Rapid City. When I went to school there, I only went to 4th grade. And now they have a 5th grade.
It's really exciting.
I read a lot, I designed beers, and I just brewed. Essentially, it was just the most interesting thing to me. So I chose brewing, and I didn't go back to school for my final year. And from there, I worked at other breweries throughout the state before I just decided that I'm young now, and if I go for it and it fails, at least I'll be able to bounce back. I think it was 24, 23 at the time. Gonna build a brewery, got $30,000, 3 months, open, it's gonna be sweet. We got this big semi-truck pulling up with all these tanks on it, and the guy from the Chamber of Commerce comes over, he's like, "What are you doing?" I was like, "Well, I'm putting a brewery in here." He's like, "Well, you can't do that." I'm like, "Well, why not? Like, that's the equipment. This is the building I just signed the lease on, like, what's the problem?" "Well, have you talked to the village council?" I was like, "No, who are they?" So I changed the use of a building, which meant that I had to bring the building up to code. My financial projection of $30,000 of like cleaning the floors and painting the walls and making a bathroom nice turned into like $180,000 in 18 months worth of construction. So that is funny. Making beer here in the early years was a lot of trial and error. But the actual act of brewing was always just sort of peaceful for me, especially when I was doing it solo for the first couple of years.
You could see him try to do everything, filling kegs, going upstairs to bartend, like, because they definitely were small back then.
Being so far off the beaten path, it was really important that we maintain a relationship with our customers so they would want to come back.
I remember hearing at one point there was like 3 people that would run the whole show.
One day I counted, I think we had like 30 employees clocked in. And I'll complain like, "Oh, I only have 8 pub tenders," and they'll be like, "Oh, we used to have 1.
Yeah, and he would have to cook food too, or wash dishes, or all that crazy stuff.
My husband and I have been coming since my kids were real small, and they've kind of grown up here. The barrel seat, the kids used to fight over that.
You can have a pub anywhere, but we're making Bel Air a destination point, which is amazing.
How's your Izzy, Kurt?
It was awesome.
When we began to sort of hone our skills as traditional craft beer makers, we had our light, our brown, our IPA. So then we created the Imperial Beer Series because we wanted to be extraordinary.
Hey, Joe?
Yeah.
Uncle Rapids just called. They said there's a glycol leak.
Is that,
Be able to take a look at it right now?
did Tony call this in?
Yeah, it was Tony.
All right, yeah, we can do that.
I think Joe wanted just to make a series of beers that was big and bold. It let people know that we're not here just to make a regular beer.
A lot of people really dig our Imperial series. I'd say still my favorite one is Goodfeller. I like Goodfeller a lot, and Peaches and Cream.
When you look at the beers that cross our desks here, the variety is absolutely unbelievable.
The brewing world, you'll never be able to hit the ends. I mean, it's like trying to find the end of the internet.
I mean, the shopping lists are crazy. It's blueberries, strawberries, carrots, spruce tips, marshmallow fluff, candy bars. It's not a group of us who are like, that sounds awesome, let's throw it into the brew kettle. It's time and effort and calculation.
We had to go from, brewing single batches 3 or 4 days a week in Bel Air to doing almost a dozen batches in some weeks with Tony brewing until 4 in the morning. It seemed like everything was moving at a pace that was faster than we were able to dictate.
Essentially, the January of 2008 is when we bought the building. So it was like this giant race, to get the production facility up and running to provide some relief to Bel Air.
Things break everywhere, it seems. Like we've done our best to try to make things not break, but Google hasn't figured that out yet either.
It forced us to try to make the best beer we could with really horrible equipment. We're taking on a lot of debt, we're taking on a lot of risk. We had to figure it out, like there was no turning back.
It's not like any of us have ever been, like full-on consultants for how to run a brewery out of Northwest Michigan.
It's like, well, we need to rip out this 5,000 square foot chunk of floor. Let's just go get a forklift and a saw and a jackhammer and do that. And then when we cut like our first square, it was like, we can't do this. Like, this is ridiculous. And it was just horrible. It would have taken us 6 months probably to do. And It took those guys, I think, a week. I got everything ready to brew. You know, we had our piece of crap feed mill hooked up to the auger system, and it was literally like, get the beer in the tank. It's gonna ferment for, 10, 14 days, so that's how long I have to put the bottling line together.
We were hand labeling over and over and over again, 10, 12 hours at a time. You'd leave when you were too tired to do it anymore. Come back and do it the next day.
We would put Elmer's glue on a paper label and sort of wrap it around and straighten it by hand. And how do you like the drive so far?
It's great. I've seen a lot of right out that window.
So anyway, I was working on this draft issue, and this guy behind me sitting at the bar was like, hey, what's a guy got to do to get a mug club membership around here? I'm like, we have this waiting list program, and I'm a retired guy, and I'm not gonna live very long, and I just love to have my own mug. What is it gonna take to get this guy to stop talking to me about this mug? Because I started thinking of, like, real quick in my head, like, how much is it gonna cost to finish the Elk Rapids production facility? I'm like, you know what it'll take you? If you want a mug, it'll cost you $150,000. I go about my business. He's like, I'm in. I'm like, what do you mean? He's like, I'll do it. But he's like, no, I think you're gonna need $200,000 though. And it was literally written on like a personal check. It was like, pulls it out of his like his checkbook, writes the check. I'm like, okay, and I just was like, what the hell do I do? I kind of like folded it up and like put it in my wallet. I'm like, all right, here you go.
Joe has this magic that comes together, and I think it's all of us working here also. We all have a real heartbeat for Joe, for craft brewing.
But all in all, I guess the greatest thing that changed was our potential. Yeah, potential to keep kicking ass and making beer.
It's been I don't know of any other really successful breweries that decided like, oh hey, we're gonna make and package 100 different beers this year. That's sort of how Shorts has built its brand. You couldn't do it anywhere else, I don't think. Thanks, Michigan.
We are of such an intense growth that we constantly feel like we're in a state of scramble. Fast and loose, we like to say. The cart and the horse at the same time. Just keep pushing it.
So a lot of people wouldn't think that we do a lot of lab tests at a brewery, but actually it's pretty complex. I do a lot of diacetyl distillations. I also do a bunch of microbial tests. So I spend a lot of time in the hood behind me pouring plates and getting ready to test to see if there's any lactobacillus or pediococcus in any of our beers.
Yeah, I hate pediococcus.
No one should like pediococcus.
Let's get philosophical for a second.
Oh, geez. Yes, beer. What does beer mean? It's a noble profession, I think.
Craft beer is in fact something for everybody, and it is still just as crucial and important to our culture, as human beings as it has been for the past, couple hundred years.
I spend so much time diving into the minutia of beer that when I don't have to, I don't. I think it should be something that if you are talking with friends and having a beer and you're like, this tastes pretty good, and the other guy goes, I like it too, and then you're pretty much having a great time.
Beer is also a symbol of responsibility for sustainability, especially in our region. If it's water quality or natural area upkeep, we truly foster the fact that we enjoy what we do, and we also really enjoy where we live. We just want to keep making things sweet. We want to keep fixing it up and making it awesome. Not the guy waking up going, time to make the donuts. It's the time to make the beer. It's a livelihood.
Time check that it's 23 after 4.
Okay.
Which I think that's everything.
We're still doing the podcast today?